You're listening to the Vocabit podcast, where I help students improve their vocabulary for the SAT, ACT, and life itself using my unique and research-backed story-based method. On this podcast, I'm sharing the best tips and tricks for a more enriched vocabulary and pain-free test day. Hello, and welcome to episode 51 of the Vocabit podcast. I'm Erica Abbott, a former English and history teacher, the author of the young adult novel Ahead of Her Time, and the founder of the eponymously named vocabulary company Vocabit. So you probably know by now that I am all about boosting your vocabulary through stories, and because my method is story-based, I do a fair amount of writing. At the moment, I'm taking you behind the scenes as I write my second book, tentatively titled Behind the Times. And I'm modeling my process off of the process of Barbara Mertz, better known by her pen name Elizabeth Peters. Having covered brainstorming and ideas, we're now moving into outlining. And I know it's not the most fascinating subject in the world, so I'm going to keep this episode short. But here's what you should know. There are two predominant camps in the writing community. There are plotters and pantsers. Plotters plot, they plan out their novels in advance. Pantsers figure it out as they go, writing by the seat of their pants. Barbara Mertz made no secret of the fact that she was a plotter. In my research into her writing process, I found that she tended to write at least 2 outlines for each book. One was a shorter, maybe 1 to 3 page outline. The other was a longer, maybe 7 to 15 page outline, which was obviously much more detailed. Both were written synopsis-style. They weren't bullet points. She basically told the story in these outlines, just more concisely. If you're writing a book of your own, feel free to take that tidbit and use it in your planning. I'm doing a slight spin on this step personally. I cheated a little bit and started drafting over the weekend before finishing my outlines. But having written the first 2 chapters or so, I've 100% decided to make it dually narrated by 2 different characters. And so rather than doing a straight narrative outline, I'm going to outline it chapter by chapter. So instead of just telling the story in a long outline, I'm doing, chapter 1, Nor, this happens. Chapter 2, so-and-so, this happens. Elizabeth Peters' books tend to have one narrator, which is just a data point to keep in mind as you decide which approach you want to take. There's no better or worse approach. It's whatever works for you. But if you have multiple narrators, you might want to change up your approach a bit, like I'm doing. So this week, our job, if you're writing a book with me, is to either write or finish your outline. If you're a pantser, you can skip this step if you want, or just do a really, loose big picture overview. I mean, it's definitely possible to fall somewhere in the middle of these 2 camps. But I've definitely decided, and I made this very clear at the beginning, that I do want to outline this book pretty rigorously because I don't want to have to do a bunch of rewrites again. On Thursday, we're going to dive into character sketches. If you are an Elizabeth Peters, aka Barbara Mertz fan, I'm going to share some direct quotes from her notes, which are absolutely hilarious, and we're going to keep going from there. All right, see you on Thursday.